The woods are supposed to be peaceful. The chirping of crickets, the scent of pine in the air, the crackle of a fire. For many, camping is an escape from reality, a place where we disconnect from the world and reconnect with nature. But for the 6 people in these stories, their trips into the wilderness became something much darker. What follows are 6 true creepy camping horror stories that will make you think twice before zipping up your tent at night. Casey and her best friend Lily were on a girls-only weekend at Blackbird Hollow Campground in West Virginia. They'd grown up hiking the Appalachian trails and camping in the summers, but this time felt different. They arrived late Friday afternoon, set up their tent near the stream, and toasted marshmallows until the stars blanketed the sky. Just past midnight, Casey heard rustling outside. She thought it might be a raccoon, so she peeked through the zipper, only to see nothing. That is, until she spotted a tall silhouette standing just beyond the trees. It wasn't moving. It wasn't talking. It just stood there like a statue watching. Casey froze. She whispered to Lily to wake up, but when Lily stirred and looked out too, the figure had vanished. They tried to laugh it off, chalking it up to shadows playing tricks, but an hour later they heard footsteps. Not just footsteps, heavy, deliberate steps circling their tent. Casey held her breath while gripping the flashlight like a weapon. Lily whispered, "Did you lock the car?" The keys were still inside the tent, and neither of them wanted to leave. The steps stopped. Then a voice from just outside muttered, "Wrong camp." Neither of them moved. They waited for what felt like hours. When morning came, they ran straight to the ranger's office. The ranger didn't even seem surprised. "You girls were in Site 12, he asked. "Yeah," Casey said. He just nodded and added, "We don't usually assign that one anymore. Too many strange complaints." In the summer of 2006, Kyle and his older cousin Trevor went camping in Oregon near Mount Hood. They had this tradition of spending one weekend a year off the grid. No phones, no GPS, just a map and their gear. That year, they found a secluded spot near an abandoned fire watchtower. It was eerily beautiful. They hiked most of the day, built a fire, and settled in early. Around 2 a.m., Kyle was jolted awake by what sounded like metal scraping. It was rhythmic, slow, deliberate. He peeked out of the tent and saw the fire watchtower light was on. That wasn't possible. The tower had no power. No one had been up there in decades. Trevor was already awake, pale, pointing to the same thing. They grabbed their flashlights and cautiously approached the base of the tower. The ladder creaked, but neither dared climb. Just then, something dropped from above, a small metal whistle landing with a soft ping at Kyle's feet. He picked it up, examining the initials scratched into the side. EM, 1972. Later, they learned from a ranger that a forest lookout named Ethan Miller went missing from that tower in the early 70s. No trace was ever found, but campers sometimes report lights, sounds, and objects like his whistle. Kyle kept it for years, but always felt watched afterward. One day, it just disappeared from his drawer. Samantha and her boyfriend Eric loved spontaneous road trips. One fall, they decided to camp in upstate New York near an old Revolutionary War battlefield. They weren't history buffs, but the area was remote and gorgeous with fall colors. The first night was uneventful. The second, they heard drumming in the distance. At first, they assumed it was someone playing music, but the rhythm was off. Slow, thunderous, tribal almost. Eric followed the sound while Samantha stayed behind with the fire. 30 minutes passed. Then 45. No sign of Eric. Just the drumming, louder now, circling the perimeter of their site. When Eric finally emerged, he looked dazed. He claimed he followed a figure dressed in old-timey military gear, thinking it was part of some reenactment. But when he got close, the figure vanished. He also said the trees had shifted, that he kept ending up back where he started. They packed up in the middle of the night. As they drove off, their headlights caught something in the trees, what looked like dozens of shadowy figures in uniform, standing still, like a battalion waiting for orders. In 1994, a Boy Scout troop from Georgia took a camping trip to Lake Hartwell. Among the troop was 10-year-old Jason, quiet and observant. On their second night, while others were telling ghost stories, Jason wandered a little too far from camp. He found a cave near the water's edge and crawled inside, using his flashlight to explore. Inside he discovered bones. Not animal bones. Human. And not just one. Dozens. Arranged in a circle like some kind of ritual. Jason screamed and ran back to camp, but when he told the scout leaders, they didn't believe him. One adult followed Jason back to the cave, only to find nothing. No bones. Not even the cave. Jason was made fun of for years. But 25 years later, in 2019, a hiker stumbled across skeletal remains in a cave matching Jason's description. The site was roped off, and the remains were identified as belonging to multiple missing persons over decades. Jason, now an adult, was vindicated. He'd never camped again after that trip, and he never let his kids go either. Tyler, a park ranger in Colorado, spent most of his time alone in a fire lookout station high in the mountains. One July night, he noticed a flickering orange glow in the distance. Someone had lit an unauthorized campfire. He grabbed his gear and hiked down to investigate. As he got closer, he noticed there were no voices, no movement, just the sound of the fire crackling. When he reached the site, the fire was burning, but no one was there. Not a single footprint. It was as if the fire had started itself. Tyler stomped it out, looked around, and radioed it in. As he turned to leave, he saw someone watching from behind a tree. Tall, featureless, wearing a coat far too heavy for summer. When Tyler called out, the figure ducked behind the tree. But when he got there, no one was there. The ground was dry, no footprints. That night, back at the lookout, Tyler heard scratching on the wooden door. He opened it, but no one was there. The next morning, etched into the outside of the door, were 3 words. "You found me." Tyler never found an explanation. A few months later, he transferred to a different station. Emily and her younger brother Josh went camping in Yosemite with their parents. It was their first trip since their mom had recovered from a long illness, and everyone was in good spirits. They set up near a lake, roasted hot dogs, and stayed up watching the stars. The next morning, Josh was gone. No sound, no struggle, just gone. Park rangers launched a full search, helicopters, dogs, the works. Nothing. On the 3rd day, Emily swore she saw him across the lake, standing perfectly still at the water's edge. She screamed for him, ran, but by the time she got there, he was gone again. What made it worse was that the mud at the lake's edge had no footprints. They stayed one more night in case he returned. At midnight, Emily woke to find Josh sitting at the campfire, dirty, silent, staring into the flames. Her parents ran out overjoyed, but as soon as her dad touched Josh's shoulder, he vanished like smoke in the wind. They never saw him again. Emily swears to this day that it was really him. A week later, they got a letter in the